Yeah, and I think that that we kind of need to differentiate between entrepreneurs that are pursuing business models that have already been validated, and then entrepreneurs that are potentially trying to do something very, very innovative, where there are a lot more sort of unknown variables, where you're trying to do something new and you don't actually know if the business model, if it can be a sustainable business model. So one of the things that you mentioned is leverage buyouts. So, looking at a company, looking to potentially take out a credit and acquire a company. You mentioned that companies do this quite frequently. Can individuals also do leverage buyouts of, let's say, smaller companies? And how would you as an individual approach that? Because if you can look at like the historic financial data of a company, you can evaluate if it's feasible, and you've already, it's obviously very good from a risk management perspective, because you've already validated that there's a market, that there are customers that want to buy this. Because I think a lot of startups actually die because they never manage to sell anything, right? So I think that's why a lot of startups fail. And then the other category of failures is basically that there's no sustainable business model, so that they sell but there's no profit margins, right? So I think those are the two kind of failure categories that you have. But yes, if you do a leverage buyout of a startup, you can look at financial data, how they've performed historically, and take out a credit and then buy that startup. So do you know of any individuals that are doing this? And do you think that that's a realistic option to potentially become an entrepreneur, like just to take out a credit, buy a company? Do you think that would be a smart idea?
Yes. I mean, I think of course, it has risk, as everything has. So to answer your first question, yes, there is people doing leverage buyouts with small companies. So the idea here is that it's way more difficult to do it with a startup, because like a startup has probably not much historical data.
Let's say a company that's like 2 or 3 years old, they'll already have revenue. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So if you have, it's just as example that I gave with the property. If you have a rental property and the cash flow, the monthly rent, the cap rate is enough to pay for the financial cost, okay, you can do it. The property will pay for acquiring that asset, that rental house or whatever. So the same happens with small businesses, because something which is interesting, George, is that lots of small and medium companies, some of them can have really good margins. Rate of returns can be much more higher than, let's say, a property, right? Risk is also much higher. But if you have evidence that it's possible to keep those margins, that revenue, that free cash flow, of course, now the tricky side here, and I think it's much more riskier to do that right now in 2022, at the end of 2022 compared to 2021, is that financial cost is a key element in these leverage buyouts. If you have, and that's probably the main problem with Latin America. So right now in the US, the interest rates have been rising quite steadily thanks to the Federal Reserve. They made an increase of 75 basis points yesterday, so it's closer now to 4%. So you have the mortgage rates, just as an indicator, at 7% in the US, really high compared to the last decade. And here in Mexico, we have the free risk interest rate, the one that Banco de Mexico, states at 10 and 11%, if you're investing in CETES, in 1 year government bonds. So yeah, it's the financial cost right now with the current interest rates. I think it makes it much more difficult in this current moment. However, still, I think that you need to So you mentioned validated business models. I think that there is a huge opportunity with the generational transition or world transition. Maybe you have heard that concept. Like lots of baby boomers are really close to retirement, and lots of baby boomers do not have someone in their family who wants to keep the business.
Yep.
So I was reading an article about this. Like, there's going to be like a huge opportunity to buy successful businesses that they have been operating for 5, 10, 20 years, that they have, good market shares. And these are small and medium businesses that are located maybe, in one city. But they are a good opportunity to buy. And those are already, working businesses. They are successful in their way. And I'll just add that maybe instead of like bringing an idea from zero, from scratch, I think that there is always space to innovate, to look for innovation in an already established business, in an already running company. I remember my oldest brother once went to. Do you remember? Is it Y Combinator where Dropbox was incubated?
Yeah.
Okay, so he went there when he was studying his MBA. This is like 10 years ago, and he went to a conference with I don't know. I think it was the owner of Tetra Pak, like the milk containers.
Yeah.
And basically what he said, that guy mentioned in that conference, is that you stop trying to find like great ideas. Like there are lots of already good and working ideas out there. Just find a way to use technology to make that business or that idea work better, either by reducing costs or making the consumer experience much better. Like just find something which is already working and try to bring technology to it and make it better that way. So I think that lots of wannabe entrepreneurs should look for those kind of strategies, and I think that a huge opportunity is coming in the next years with all those baby boomers, like those businesswomen, businessmen that are gonna like retire and they will be probably happy to sell their businesses.
Yeah, it sounds like a very interesting trend that probably is going to create like a lot of I think there will probably be a lot of like new private equity firms that are going to form around that trend and just buy up traditional businesses. And we'll probably see a similar trend here in Mexico as well.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I will advise a lot of people who want to stop working as employees and they want to be business owners to go that way.